You've been asked to deliver a training, but it's really not your most favorite thing to do. It's one of many job responsibilities, and you really just don't like the cold stares in the quiet room as you deliver information. Or you're new to corporate training and you don't know where to start. Here at MBT, we've got 5 tried and true tested engagement techniques. I'm going to share them and demonstrate them to you right now. Engagement starts right from the beginning of the session. The first tip, share the session objective. Once you get done with housekeeping introductions, here's what we're here to learn today. And then ask them this question: how would knowing this information help you with your job role? In other words, how is this training session going to help you advance, grow, develop, perform your job better, faster, whatever? Once you ask that question, you have 2 choices. One is either have them write it down and then share, go around, have people share and have a group discussion. Call on somebody if you get that kind of quiet, nobody wants to go first, but have them share individually and start a bit of a group discussion. I guarantee you, as one person shares, it's going to key thoughts in other people. The other way to do it, give them that same 30 or 40 seconds to write down how the information is going to help them with their job role, and then break them up into pairs or small groups, have them discuss, and then have members of those groups share and continue a group discussion. Either way, start engagement right from the beginning of the session. The second tip is called the long sip of coffee. A classic mistake that trainers will make is that they just present a fire hose of information. It is a nonstop presentation of facts, and they'll talk for 20, 30, 40 minutes straight. And then at the very end, ask any questions. And of course, you get just dead stone silence. So here's what you do instead. Share a little bit of information and then ask a question that causes your audience to either consider what you just shared, apply what you just shared, or think about how what you just shared is actually used in their day-to-day life. Here's a little bit of what it sounds like. In the world of sales, it's important to know your products and know your services inside and out, so that when your customer asks you a question, you know the answer and you're able to give them the details that they need. Let me ask you though, before I move on, what would happen if your customer asks you a laundry list of questions and you don't know the answers to any of them? The long sip of coffee technique works really, really well because it causes you to stop talking and it gives your audience a chance to answer. That silence as you take that drink of coffee is going to cause them to answer. It also gives them time to actually think about and consider what you just got done talking about. But that silence does the heavy lifting for you and it causes them to answer. I guarantee you, you take that long pause, somebody's going to start speaking up, and then you can use that as engagement and you can get your audience talking. Variations of this are to ask that question and then look at your watch, ask that question and pretend like you're checking something in your notes, or just ask that question and just sort of kind of look around the room in kind of a funny little way. But either way, ask a question that causes your audience to apply the information, respond to the information, or think about what would happen if that information is used or not used. Some sort of thought-provoking question. Take a long pause. That gives them time to think, and then ultimately the silence will do the heavy lifting. And then somebody's going to speak up. And then you can use that as a springboard to get a discussion going. The long sip of coffee technique. The third technique guaranteed to get engagement is called the how would you handle that situation technique. One of the most powerful things I ever learned as a youngster was from my grandfather. I asked him a question about tempered safety glass. Gramps, what's tempered safety glass? And he asked me, what do you think it is? Now, as an 8-year-old, I had no earthly idea, but it taught me that he was putting the responsibility on me to kind of figure it out and give me an opportunity to think my way through it. And I can tell you from tens of thousands of hours of corporate training, when somebody asks you a question, they're looking for the easy answer. Give them an opportunity to think through it on their own. Doing that will show the rest of the group that you're not just going to give them the answers. And then two, when they start thinking through it on their own, they're going to get deeper retention and understanding of that information, assuming they can think through to the right answer. But what it also does is it reveals what your audience does and doesn't know about that topic, and it generates conversation. As the first person is thinking, well, if I had to come up with the answer on my own, I would say the answer is blah, blah, blah. Somebody else might say, yeah, but why would it be that and not this? Or, you know what, I was confused about that too. When somebody in your audience says, hey, how would you do this, teacher? How would you do this, trainer person? I don't know. How would you handle it? Make them think through the answer for themselves. Now, if they are just abjectly stuck, they have no earthly idea, they just can't get to the answer, of course, help them out. Don't leave them hanging. But don't just automatically give them the answer. Encourage them to sort through it on their own. The fourth tip to turbocharge the engagement and participation in your session is called the write it down technique. And here's how it works. You share information, you present whatever it is you need to present, and then you say this. Take 30 to 45 seconds, and I want you to write down 3 questions you have about this information right now. Or I want you to take 30, 45 seconds and write down how would you use this information in your daily life. Physically write it down. Or take 30, 40 seconds. What is going to happen if you don't do whatever it is I just got done telling you? Or take 30, 45 seconds, and what I want you to do is write down 3 things you need to change to be able to do what it is you're learning today. Whatever it is, you're going to give them a specific prompt and have them physically write it down, or if they're using a computer, type it out. Guide them to actually stop, think about what you've just shared, physically write it down. Now that becomes a springboard that either you can, again, do a group discussion, have people just share whatever it is they've written down, or you can have your audience break up into small teams and groups. They discuss it amongst themselves, and then you bring them back together to share as a bigger group. But the write it down technique, provide them Post-it notes, provide them index cards, a notepad, let them use an electronic note keeping, whatever. But stop and write down whatever the prompt is that you're going to give them. Give them time. Sit there for 30, 40 seconds, a minute, whatever the appropriate time is, and let them write it down. Then go and have people share what they've written down. I guarantee you're going to get people responding, thinking about what you've just shared, and participating far more regularly. The fifth and final tip that's guaranteed to get engagement and participation is called the debrief. The debrief. And here's how it works. Whenever you do a game, an activity, a simulation, a role play, a breakout session, a hands-on activity, anything, instead of just ending whatever that game, activity, role play, simulation, whatever was, and just saying, okay, great, we're going to take a break and move on, stop and ask your audience, how did that feel as you did that role play? What were your questions in your mind as you performed that simulation? What was the biggest thing that challenged you as you did this hands-on activity? What areas of this procedure do you need to practice to make them second nature? You're going to ask that thought-provoking question, or one like what I just shared, and then be quiet. Let them stop and think about it, and then discuss as an audience. That debrief, getting them, prompting them, guiding to really think consider and evaluate whatever it is they just did, and then bringing them back together as a group is a powerful way to get that group engagement, to get that group discussion going, to get participation, to get your audience thinking and considering whatever the learning activity was you just completed. A small video. You could play a 2 to 3 minute video to demonstrate whatever it is you want your audience to learn. And then afterwards say, hey, what I want you to do is just take 30 to 40 seconds and think about what we just viewed on the video and how that compares and contrasts to how you perform your work today. So just take a few minutes, think about it, and then we're going to get back together and discuss it as a group. That sort of prompt forces them to stop, think about that video, how it compares and contrasts to their daily work. And then it sets the stage because you've just told them we're going to discuss this as a group. And then you as the facilitator, as the instructor, whether you're in the classroom or virtually, you then engage in the discussion from there. So the debrief, very powerful. You can change the nature of whatever the prompt is to be 1,000 different things, but you perform an activity, a role play, a group discussion, a breakout, whatever. You do some sort of learning activity. Then you ask your audience, you give them specific direction on what you want them to consider, think about, what have you. And then you use that as a springboard for a group discussion or even breaking them up again to talk about whatever it was you just did. The debrief is super powerful. Don't just do a learning activity and go, okay, good, and then move on. Get your audience to think about it and talk about it. I guarantee you it will reveal people who didn't understand the activity or the learning thing that you just did. It will reveal the misconceptions that people have about your learning activity. It will reveal breakthroughs that somebody had. Oh yeah, now it clicked. And now 2 or 3 other people in the room start saying, you know what, it clicked for me too. It will reveal different perceptions or responses people had to your activity that you didn't predict were going to happen. Somebody will share something and inevitably I'll go, oh geez, I never thought about that. And that's awesome because now you're getting some really good discussion going. The debrief, super powerful. So there you have it, 5 powerful participation engagement techniques discussed and demonstrated for you. I've used and use these techniques all the time, both in classroom instructor-led training and virtual sessions. They work really well to draw your audience out, get them talking and sharing ideas. That's half the battle to having an interesting and effective training session. I hope you found these techniques useful. Thank you for being a member of NBT Nation. Together, we're going to stand up against the corporate learning crisis.